forget everything you know about Spider-Man. Peter's got a wife, kids, and no spider powers, until one life-changing message flips everything. Let's get to it. To start off the story, it's January, and we get a good look at Peter Parker that's clearly in his adulthood, mid-30s, reflecting at himself in the mirror. The look on his face tells us that something is missing in his life, something he can't quite put his finger on yet. In this universe, Peter was never bitten by a radioactive spider as a teenager, preventing him from becoming Spider-Man. That's because the Maker, who was Reed Richards from the original Ultimate Universe 1610, turned evil, altered major turning points in the lives of Marvel's heroes, including Peter's, in this universe, 6160. Instead, Peter's just a normal guy, but he still had enough riz to cuff a certain someone we all know and start a family with her. He leaves the bathroom to get dressed and puts on his wedding ring ready to start the day. After leaving the master bedroom, Peter sees both his kids, Richard and May Parker, sitting at the table eating breakfast. As he pours himself a cup of coffee, it's revealed that he's married to MJ. And man, you don't know how many Spider-Man fans, myself included, have wanted something like this for so long. Even though it's not the 616 universe, to see Peter and MJ together, married, with a family too, rather than the constant tired cycle of Peter being broke, losing jobs because of Spider-Man responsibilities, failing relationships, showing a glimpse of progress and then watching it all fall apart again, leaving him right back where he started, is honestly one of the biggest, if not the biggest, reasons so many fans have stopped reading the main Spider-Man comics. It's like, I can't even say a breath of fresh air because it's more than that. Oh, I got one. Imagine you're forced to eat the same crappy food over and over again. The food gets worse each time somehow, but one day, the menu gets updated and you're served food that's way better, getting you addicted to it after you've endured that other food for so long. Those are the Spider-Man fans, and Jonathan Hickman is the new chef in the kitchen. May is shown taking out some sort of orb she thinks is a toy, and Peter takes it off her hands, telling her it's not a toy. Remember that orb for later in the issue. That thing is beyond important. Peter heads off to the Daily Bugle where he works and hears J. Jonah Jameson shouting Parker. Naturally, you assume it's directed at Peter, like in pretty much every other Spider-Man continuity, but this time is aimed at Uncle Ben, who's revealed to be alive in his new, refreshing Ultimate Universe. Man, if you're not a Spider-Man fan, which I will find that hard to believe, but let's say you aren't, y'all don't know what us Spider-Man fans have been through since One More Day. Except for Superior Spider-Man, which was really good. I was one of those people that brushed it off and didn't like it at first, but as I started reading more and more into it, I was like, damn, I can't believe I don't know which is the better Spider-Man, Otto or Peter. Seriously, it really got me thinking that, especially when Otto didn't care about being lethal with supervillains, built Parker Industries, and made better gadgets to help him as Spider-Man. The first Spider-Verse was good too, but Peter by himself in recent years, his stories aren't as good from crap to decent. Nothing beyond decent in my opinion. He had some potential when he got back together with MJ, but that was swept from under us by Mark Waid, with who we should not speak about on here. But if you want a hint, his name starts with a P. Jonathan Hickman is really giving the fans what they want in a certain way through the story, and is so peak. Alright, let's get back on track. Ben asks why Jameson was calling for him, and Jonah lets him know about a meeting that's happening later in the day. He needs to confirm that Ben will be back in time for it, and Ben assures him that the event he's attending won't take up too much time. Peter then enters the room, checking if Ben's ready to head out to the funeral together. Ben says he is, and before they leave, Jameson stops Peter and tells him to wear a tie. He lends Peter his own and helps him put on the tie. Peter then asks if he knows how Uncle Ben is doing, and Jonah admits he doesn't, but he knows Ben is the toughest guy he's ever met. He tells Peter that if he wants to know how his Uncle Ben is doing, just ask, right before they part ways. On the way there, Peter asks Ben how he's doing, to which Ben responds, why? Peter reacts to the question as he was taken off guard a bit, and says that Ben hasn't said a word about how he's really feeling. Ben starts reflecting on the past, specifically when Peter came to live with him and Aunt May at 15 years old, after his parents died. He recalls how that first year was hard on all of them, but he and May did their best to love Peter unconditionally and protect him. Ben says he tried to prepare Peter for the world ahead, for when he was old enough to face it. The one thing they never tried to do was replace Peter's parents. Even though Ben emphasizes that, he asks Peter if there's ever been a day he didn't think about his parents, or didn't feel the pain of losing them. Peter quietly replies, no. Ben ends the conversation by saying, that's exactly how I feel. Both of them arrive at the funeral and meet up with MJ and the kids in the crowd. Everyone gathered to honor those who died in the massive explosion secretly caused by the Maker's Council. Basically his version of the Illuminati, as revealed in Ultimate Universe issue 1. It's revealed that Aunt May was among the casualties of the explosion. I do wonder what she was doing in the blast zone before she died though. Hopefully it will be revealed in this series. I get the feeling she has an important role in the story. Matt Murdock, who's a priest instead of Daredevil in this universe, delivers a heartfelt speech honoring the lives lost. And I gotta say, I really hope hope we get an Ultimate Daredevil series someday. With how this new Ultimate Universe is shaping up until the Maker comes back, even while making this video, is something I wouldn't mind reading. After Matt finishes his speech, he calls up Harry Osborn to say a few words, since he lost both his parents, Norman and Emily Osborn, in the explosion. Harry shares the memory of playing catch with Norman as a kid, those moments where it felt like it was just him and his dad. Now, knowing he'll never get to create memories like that again, he admits he doesn't think he can move on, or make peace with his parents' death. The pain is still fresh, and the memory of the day his parents died doesn't just haunt him, it frustrates him. At this point, it's pretty clear. Harry's either on the path to becoming or already is the Green Goblin in this universe. After the funeral ends, Peter and MJ spot Uncle Ben having a quiet conversation with Harry. Peter mentions that Ben used to do a few interviews with Norman Osborn back in the day, but Ben never really knew the kind of man Norman truly was. And you know what, this part may seem small, but I think Ben knows more than he's letting on. Obviously Norman has secrets, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ben figured something out, or if Norman told him something in private. Hopefully we'll get a few flashbacks showing those interviews and whatever low-key conversations they had behind the scenes. There's no way those talks were all just surface level. After returning to the Bugle, Peter and Uncle Ben overhear Jonah screaming that he quits. Ben tells Peter to go to his desk and keep his head down while he goes to the meeting room. Robbie informs Ben that the Daily Bugle is going through some editorial restructuring and the news they're pushing out now isn't profitable. There's been several complaints from advertisers about it, and Robbie's for the changes due to him being 2 years away from maxing out his pension. Wilson Fisk is revealed to be the new owner of the Daily Bugle and offers Ben the job of leading the Daily Bugle into the direction he wants him to. In response, Ben just smiles and he quits on the spot. He doesn't trust people like Wilson Fisk controlling the narrative. He knows Fisk will hold the truth back from the public. He meets Jonah in the elevator. Both of them smile as they set out for the next chapter of their lives. Later on, Fisk gets his car blown up by the Green Goblin, and then the scene immediately cuts to Ben and Jonah having a drink at the bar with no name. They discuss what the next move is for their careers. Ben suggests they start their own news business, and they tell the truth to the public through it. Jonah laughs, drawing from his many years in the media industry. What he learned is simple: there's no news in the truth, and no truth in the news. Jonah knows this is a dirty business, and suggests that they won't create lies in their news. It all has to be the truth. Peter soon joins them in their conversation. He tells them what happened at the Daily Bugle after they quit. Jonah asks Peter if he wanted a job to work for them in a new business venture, but Peter responded and questioned if they got money to pay him. Jonah brushed it off, saying that was a problem for another day, before walking off and saying goodnight. Now sitting face to face, Peter wastes no time and asks Ben on how did he blow up his life in one afternoon and start a new one. Ben gave the perfect response. He said Aunt May is gone. Peter was a grown man with a family of his own, and he couldn't spend another minute working in a compromised industry. To him, leaving was a no-brainer. Then he turned the question back on to Peter, asking what's going on with him. That's when Peter opened up. He admits that his family and relationship with MJ are solid, but deep down, something still doesn't feel right. He didn't know what it was, just that something inside him was off, and he didn't know how to fix it. He asks Ben for advice. Ben responds by asking if Peter ever heard the quote, "Inaction is action." Peter said he had, which led to Ben giving his own take on it. He called it a garbage way of saying, don't spend your life waiting for something to happen, make it happen. Then Ben stood up, looked Peter in the eye, and basically told him to go for it before walking away. Back at the Parker residence, Peter makes sure Richard and May go to sleep before meeting MJ in the living room. She could tell something's on his mind. Peter opens up and says he needs a change, and MJ, without missing a beat, gives Peter a sign that she's known that for years. That moment right there shows the strength of their bond. Even if Peter never admitted it until now, MJ could always see the way he carried. She describes it like a cloud hanging over him. He pretends to be happy, but deep down, he's never truly been satisfied with who he is. She asks if he knows what he needs to do, and Peter says yes. Then she asks if he'll change anything between them, and he answers never. MJ leans in and kisses him on the forehead, bringing the conversation to a close. Before she heads to bed, she looks back at him and says, "Go get him, Tiger." Now this is the kind of relationship in life Peter and MJ deserve in the main universe. But let's be real, we're probably never gonna get that. At least as canon in the Ultimate Universe, I'm more than happy for it, and I'll take it. Right after that, Peter picks up the object May thought was a toy earlier and heads up to the roof. On the next page, we get a flashback showing when that device first appeared in Peter's living room. When he touches the container, a hologram of Tony Stark appears with a pre-recorded message made specifically for Peter. Tony tells Peter that the device was sent from 6 months in the future, and that detail is going to be very important as this arc leads into the next one. At the beginning of the issue, we saw the date marked as January, and each issue in this arc takes place in a different month. So the first issue is January, the second issue is February, the third is March, fourth is April, fifth is May, and then the sixth is June, making wrapping up the 6-month period. Tony says he can't explain everything just yet, but he makes it clear. The world Peter thinks he knows is far from simple and far more dangerous than he could ever imagine. He then opens the container, revealing the device and what's inside of it. The radioactive spider that was supposed to bite Peter 20 years ago, and a Picotech suit. Peter is still confused about everything that's going on, so Tony breaks it down for him. He explains what should have happened all those years ago, how Peter was meant to be bitten by the spider. If it wasn't for the Maker interfering and altering key events that were supposed to create Marvel's heroes, Peter would have become one of the most iconic heroes in history, and that's an understatement. But that destiny was stolen from him. Tony goes on to say that Peter isn't the only one he's trying to help. There are other heroes out there, people whose destinies were also stolen. If everything goes according to plan, Tony hopes they'll rise up and join the fight to free their world. And just before the hologram fades out, Tony leaves Peter with one powerful question. Does he want his future and his destiny back? Cutting back to the present, Peter unlocks the device and quietly says that he wants his future back. He opens the vial and smiles as he lets the radioactive spider bite him. What makes this moment even more powerful is that we get flashback panels of Uncle Ben and MJ in their own words, encouraging Peter to just go for it, echoing their support from the previous pages. That emotional support, that belief in him, it hits hard. And just like that, the Spider-Man of the Ultimate Universe is born. The first issue ends off with a dope panel showing him suited up for the first time, reborn, ready, and iconic. Moving on to issue 2, we start off in the month of February and we get a close look at Spider-Man swinging. And just a heads up, Peter hasn't come up with his iconic Spider-Man suit yet, and he hasn't even taken on the name Spider-Man either. That comes later. The next morning, Richard and May are seen talking about the photo of this mysterious new hero. May believes Spider-Man is real, while Richard thinks it's all just Photoshop. She then turns to her dad and asks if he thinks the new hero is real. Peter, a little caught off guard, wonders why it matters to her what Richard thinks all of a sudden. May explains that she was hoping Spider-Man wasn't real because his appearance scares her. That hit Peter by surprise low-key, so he lies and reassures her that it's probably fake, just to help ease her fears. MJ walks in and about to head out, and before she leaves, she asks Peter if he's been working out. He casually says he's been working out a little over the past few weeks. Later that night, Peter's still adjusting to his newly acquired spider powers. He reflects on how much his body has changed. His strength, agility, and stamina have all increased dramatically, to the point where he barely needs sleep. His appetite also skyrocketed too, to the point he's now eating nearly 10,000 calories a day just to keep up with his energy needs. The scene cuts to Ben and Jonah sitting in a sauna, discussing the recent attacks on Wilson Fisk. According to Ben's source, there was another attempt on Fisk's life last night by the same guy in the green suit. We all know it's the Green Goblin, of course, but he hasn't been officially named that yet. Ben and Jonah start leaving the sauna, and they both know they have work to do if they want to uncover what's really happening behind the scenes with these sudden and targeted attacks. It cuts right back to Spider-Man swinging through the city. He spots a man trying to break into a building and jumps down to confront him. Peter starts talking, unintentionally scaring the guy, and the criminal nervously asks who Spider-Man is supposed to be. And Peter, still figuring it out himself, says he thinks he's the guy who's supposed to stop him. The criminal then asks if this is Spider-Man's first time doing something like this, and Peter admits it is. This is classic AP Spider-Man right here. They start having a casual, almost comedic conversation mid-crime. The guy even compliments Peter, saying he's a natural at the whole hero gig, and reaches out for a handshake to thank him for stopping him from breaking into the building. Of course, we know this man is capping out of his ass, but Peter, being new to this, falls for it. The guy blasts Peter off the roof, revealing himself as the Shocker, and Peter crashes into a garbage can. After taking an L for the night, Peter swings back home and treats himself to some ice cream until he sees May, who's absolutely terrified of him. To calm her down before she starts screaming, he takes off his mask and gently reassures her that it's him. He explains how he got his powers to May and hugs her, assuring her there's nothing to be afraid of. At first, Peter thinks May is crying, but she quickly denies it. She just can't stand the smell of him after his little dumpster dive. Peter tells her that this will be the little secret for now, and that he'll eventually tell MJ and Richard about him being Spider-Man. To make sure May keeps quiet, he bribes her with some ice cream. And before they dig in, May mentions that she still doesn't like the suit, and Peter responds with, maybe we could do something about that too. Later on, we cut to Wilson Fisk talking with Captain Britain, who in this Ultimate Universe is a member of the Illuminati. Britain doesn't agree with Fisk distracting the public with images of Spider-Man. Fisk defends his actions, claiming it was a necessary move due to the recent attacks caused by the Green Goblin. Britain reminds Fisk that he only has power because the Illuminati allow him to play king. Fisk insists, I am a king. Britain fires back, telling him to act like one, and if the Green Goblin really is such a threat, then he should use the resources given to him to deal with it. Later that night, Peter's back on patrol as Spider-Man and runs into the Shocker again. A fight breaks out, and at first, Peter manages to outmaneuver him. He lands a punch hard enough to break a few of Shocker's ribs. Realizing what he did, Peter apologizes. He's still trying to get a grip of his strength. Shocker pleads with him, saying he needs the money for his sick wife. Peter, being gullible, almost believes him, until he second guesses it. Wait, hold up, is that even true? Peter asks. Shocker smirks and responds, what do you think? Then blasts Peter again. Just like that, Peter gets sent flying into another dumpster as Shocker makes his escape. From a distance, the Green Goblin silently watches everything unfold. Peter eventually swings back home, frustrated, reflecting on getting his ass kicked twice by the same guy, and accidentally revealing his identity to May. Doubt creeps in. Maybe he's not cut out for this hero gig after all, but then he notices something. A picture May drew and left for him. It looks simple, but it shows just how much she supports her dad. Motivated, Peter smiles and thinks to himself, maybe I'll give it one more day. And just like that, issue 2 comes to a close. Now moving on to issue 3. The issue takes place in March. MJ and Richard notice something is off with Peter and May. They think they're hiding something, but Peter assures them that him and May are just spending some quality father-daughter time together. Technically, he's not wrong, and he flips it right back on them, saying that maybe MJ and Richard are the ones probably hiding something. MJ still thinks something is off, but she lets Peter and May know that she's heading out with Richard to run some errands. After MJ and Richard left, Peter and May go outside to see what they could do about Peter's suit. I love these references, and how the suit designs Peter goes through are a blend of some iconic Spider-Man suits. The first looks more like Venom, while the second outfit resembles Ben Reilly's classic Scarlet Spider suit. The third is personally my favorite, as is the Spider-Man 2099 suit, but with the color pattern of the Iron Spider suit from Civil War. The final suit is just blue and black, basically a different color scheme of the original suit. On the 5th try, May gives the thumbs up and Peter swings over the city in the original Spider-Man suit, with May on his back. The scene cuts to Ben and Jonah entering the office for their new business, which still doesn't even have a name yet. As expected, the place is a mess and really needs to be cleaned up. Peter shows up with a plan MJ bought to help bring some life into the space. He tells them straight up that if they want anyone to actually work there, they're gonna need to fix the place up first. Jonah says they've got a little bit of money left in their budget, and Peter suggests they use it to renovate. Peter soon notices their bulletin board covered with photos of suspects and connected events. Ben and Jonah dodge giving Peter all the details, joking that they can't tell him everything since he still works at the Daily Bugle. Peter catches on and offers his help. In all seriousness, Jonah asks Peter about a guy in a green suit, clearly referring to the Green Goblin, that has some kind of grudge against Fisk. Peter actually drops some useful info, mentioning that Robbie came up with the name Green Goblin to help identify the guy, and that he planned to write a story about him. But of course, the higher-ups, mainly Fisk, kept shutting it down. Peter adds that the Bugle's pumping out Spider-Man stories as a distraction for the public, and in true Peter fashion, he starts hyping up Spider-Man, knowing damn well he is Spider-Man. Ben and Jonah both give him a look. Yeah, I bet they know. Peter probably gave himself away right then and there, but they don't say anything. They just keep the conversation going. All three of them try to theorize what the situation is between the Green Goblin and Fisk, but they don't want to jump to any conclusions. They need to find out more details, which gives Peter an idea to do a stakeout as Spider-Man. To summarize the stakeout, it was terrible. Peter waited for 2 days doing nothing and bored out of his mind. Just when he was about to give up and go home, he notices a fight going on between Green Goblin and Ultimate Universe's version of Bullseye. And I gotta say, he has a dope-ass design, and he seems to be just as deadly too. Green Goblin was struggling to keep up with Bullseye until Spider-Man swooped in for the save. Bullseye hurled his metal cards at Spider-Man, and at first, Spidey thought he dodged them, but that's the thing with Bullseye. He rarely, if ever, misses. He wasn't aiming at Spider-Man directly, he was targeting the metal structure above him, and it came crashing down on him. Green Goblin shot Bullseye in the back and said, "Don't worry about him, worry about me." Bullseye replied, "Okay, deal," and unleashed a barrage of metal cards at him. The attack did major damage to Goblin's armor, leaving him immobilized, but that was part of the plan. He used himself as bait so Spider-Man could crawl out of the rubble and knock Bullseye out. Goblin asked if Spider-Man was alright and thanked them for the assist. Spider-Man asked who Bullseye was, but Goblin admitted he had no idea either. Spider-Man then questions if they should call the authorities to pick Bullseye up or something, as he's never done something like this before. But Goblin didn't think that was a good idea, pointing out that most of the police are on Kingpin's payroll. Worse, Bullseye is way more connected than Fisk. If the cops take him in, he'll be out in no time. Just then, one of Goblin's high-tech gliders swoops in to carry Bullseye away. Spider-Man asks what Goblin plans to do now, and Goblin replies, "Same thing as every day, what needs to be done. A place for everything, and everything in its place." Then Goblin shifts gears and points out Spider-Man's suit, saying it's interesting, and bets people think it looks cool. That's because it is cool, Spider-Man fires back. Moments later, Goblin presses a button on his chest, syncing his suit with Peter's. Suddenly, Peter hears the AI in the suit speaking. His mask begins to deactivate on its own. This moment is more important than it seems. Goblin's suit is built from tech similar to Spider-Man's, though it's not quite as advanced, but you guys and girls will see why the tech is similar. Then comes the big reveal. Goblin deactivates his mask, revealing himself as Harry Osborn. Peter follows suit, introducing himself in return. Harry says, "Well, Peter, I don't know if you noticed or not, but the world is a strange and dangerous place these days." Peter replies, "Yeah, I'm starting to notice that." Issue 3 then closes with Harry inviting Peter for a drink, officially laying the groundwork for their newfound friendship. Now moving on to issue 4. Issue 4 takes place in April. and opens with Peter and MJ dressed up at a fancy restaurant, clearly waiting for someone, most likely Harry. MJ questions whether it was a good idea to come, and Peter agrees it probably wasn't, but at least it gave them an excuse to dress up. MJ laughs, seeing the bright side of it too. Harry finally arrives, apologizing for being late, and asks if they're enjoying the place so far. Peter says it's nice, though they have some trouble getting in, until he mentioned Harry's name. Turns out Harry's a regular there, eating at the spot weekly. Peter introduces MJ to Harry, and Harry congratulates her on her business, saying he respects anyone who bets on themselves. Peter then asks if Harry's wife will be joining them, and that's when Gwen Stacy walks in. Total curveball. I wasn't expecting that at all when I first read this, or in fact, I don't think anyone did. Gwen is Harry's wife in this universe? Who would have thought? And if you're caught up on the current run of Ultimate Spider-Man right now, then you know just how important Gwen's role becomes. If not, trust me, it's gonna blow your mind. As dinner goes on, everyone's enjoying themselves. Peter mentions that he and MJ haven't had a night out like this in a while, which leads Harry to figure out that it's been since before Richard and May were born. MJ asks if Harry and Gwen have kids, and they say no. They've talked about it, but they're hesitant. MJ gets it. Having kids could be a scary proposition either way. She asks how long Harry and Gwen have been married, and Harry admits he doesn't exactly keep track, but Gwen's on it. She says they've been married for 8 years, 3 months, and 11 days. Damn, call me an ass, but I'm only counting by years. I could never remember that much detail. Harry shifts the conversation and wants to know more about MJ's background. Peter jumps in mentioning MJ's PR firm and how she specializes in marketing. That catches Gwen's attention, and she asks what led MJ to start her firm. MJ shares that she used to be a model for a while, and people began noticing how well she handled her own brand. That opened doors for her at several firms, one of which makes Gwen pause, Smith & Altman. Gwen notes that place is interesting, and even mentions that Norman Osborn used the firm a few times before he died. To MJ, interesting is just a polite way of saying sketchy. She didn't like the ethics of the place, so she quit and started her own business. Harry asks if she has any clients, and MJ says she's on retainer with damage control, but most of her clients are one-offs. Then she asks Peter if it's okay to mention one of her other clients. Peter gives her the green light, and MJ reveals she's been helping Ben and Jonah with their new media venture. The scene then cuts straight to Ben and Jonah mid-conversation, with Ben babysitting the kids, picking up right where MJ left off. Ben reveals the official name of their news business called The Paper. Yeah, it's very basic, but hey, I'm not the one in PR. Jonah doesn't feel okay with their business releasing news online instead of on paper, but now he really feels uneasy with their business being called The Paper as well. But as he thinks more into the name alongside Ben, it starts to feel more right. He thinks the name is very generic, but it's generic in the right way. The scene then cuts right back to the Parkers and the Osborns at dinner. Harry and Gwen share their reactions to The Paper, and Gwen brings up an interesting point about Spider-Man that offers a new perspective. She believes that if Spider-Man really is a good guy, then his existence must be upsetting to certain people, the bad guys. His presence implies there's something wrong with the world, and his purpose, like any true hero in a corrupt world, is to try and fix it. Harry then reveals something huge. Pause. He reveals that Gwen is the CEO of Oscorp. Then Gwen and MJ head to the ladies' room. While they're doing their makeup, Gwen asks MJ for a favor, but it's not what you'd expect. Gwen has too much money and needs help getting some of it off the books. She's already donated to every charity and non-profit she can think of, but it's not enough. That's where MJ comes in. Gwen wonders if MJ could set her up with The Paper, since she has a few ideas for how to funnel her extra money into something meaningful. Honestly, this version of Gwen is impressive, a master strategist and long-term planner, especially when it comes to resources. Well, she is a CEO after all. But back at the dinner table, Harry starts talking to Peter, and it becomes clear that MJ doesn't know Peter is Spider-Man yet. Peter's eyes widen when he realizes Harry told Gwen everything, including his identity and his Green Goblin activities. Peter pushes back, arguing that keeping his identity secret protects his family. And let me just say, I hate that logic. Heroes always talk about keeping their loved ones safe by keeping them in the dark, but that never actually works. Being close to a hero puts them in danger regardless. From my point of view, what's the point of the secrecy? I'm just glad Harry checks Peter on that and makes him actually reflect on the emotional walls he's built between himself and his family. Well, everyone except May, of course. What Harry says makes way more sense, especially since the path they're both walking down is only going to get darker and more dangerous as they dig deeper into the truth behind the Ultimate Universe. He lays it out plain. Their pursuit is going to come with consequences, not just for them, but for the people they care about. As Harry keeps it real with Peter, he makes a powerful point. Peter has a lot of power, while Harry's just a guy in a suit of armor. And then when I first read this, I had this moment in my head, is he really about to say it? No way. But sure enough, he says it. The iconic line, with great power comes great responsibility. Uncle Ben is still alive in this universe, so I figured he'd be the one to say it eventually, but nah, Harry said it. Okay, Green Goblin. After dinner, Peter and MJ walk home, both agreeing that the conversation was intense for both of them. Peter asks MJ what she thinks about the idea that the world needs heroes. MJ smiles and said, what does she need heroes for when she has Peter? She has no idea how right she is yet, ending off issue 4. Issue 5 opens with Norman Osborn frustrated at Harry for being late to an important Osborn family event. Since Norman is still alive, it's clear that this takes place months before the events of issue 4, setting the stage from Harry's perspective as we build towards where we last left off. Norman calls Harry and expresses his disappointment in him. Just like his counterpart on Earth 616, Norman is a stiff ass and treats his son like trash. A pure example of that shows when Norman tells Harry that his favorite memory of him is when he finally starts to act like a man, like an Osborn. To twist the knife in deeper, Norman tells Harry that sadly his favorite memory of him has yet to happen, and that's a one-way ticket to make your kid resent you. I'll never understand how people like Norman think belittling their own children will somehow turn them into better versions of themselves. That's wild to me. Norman stresses on that everyone at the party is waiting for him until he gets cut off. All of a sudden, the whole building Norman was in is vaporized by the Staying Stark satellite secretly activated by the Illuminati. Harry witnesses the explosion from a few blocks away. He's speechless, as he's in disbelief of what he just saw. A few weeks later, Harry and Gwen sit down for a meeting with Norman's attorney. He informs them that Norman left behind a trust containing his estate and assets, now fully under the control of the remaining Osborns. That includes Harry and Gwen. However, the full transfer of Oscorp would take more time to process, and just as the meeting wraps up, the attorney mentions one last thing. A card that was delivered specifically for Harry is from Wilson Fisk, and the very next day, Harry decides to meet with him face to face. Kingpin is about to be promoted to Shadow Governor of the New York Territory and Kingpin in Manhattan. He arranged this meeting to sell the Staying Stark company to Harry because he, or more precisely the Illuminati, wants the Staying Stark name erased from existence. And what better way to do that than having Oscorp absorb it completely? Fast forward a couple weeks, and it's official. Oscorp acquires the Staying Stark company, assets and all. With the help of Otto Octavius, Harry and Gwen gain access to a secured vault housing Iron Man suits and the fully functional arc reactor. But Gwen, being the sharp strategist she is, points out that the real value isn't the tech itself, it's in the hidden data buried in the vault. Otto locates a terminal containing encrypted files and effortlessly breaks through its firewalls. Loads of different files, including suit designs and accounts, opened up and were available to look through. Gwen doesn't hesitate at all. She immediately tells Otto he's signing a new NDA if he wants to continue working with any of this tech. Otto agrees without any hesitation and asks where to sign. Sometime later, Otto presents a new Goblin suit, along with a glider and pumpkin bombs. But that's not the main reason he called Harry in. He reveals that the Stark tech embedded within the Goblin suit is connected to a secure network that links all of the Stark-based technology together. Through the Goblin helmet, Harry sees a digital snapshot highlighting every active piece of Stark tech within range, each represented by a glowing dot. Otto points out something strange. A new signal appeared the night before, followed by over 100 more shortly after. Judging by the timeline, which is set in January in this moment, it lines up perfectly with Tony Stark sending those future devices back to Peter and a few other potential heroes. The scene then jumps ahead to February, right after the Shocker knocks Peter off a building. Harry chases him down, and when Shocker tries to activate his high-tech gloves, they fail. Harry remotely deactivated them since it's Stark technology too. Demanding answers, Harry corners Shocker and forces him to reveal where he got the gear. Shocker explains that during a robbery, he broke into a place only to realize the person who lived there was already dead, while a pre-recorded message from Tony Stark was still playing. He took the opportunity to take the Stark tech left in the package, which eventually led to him becoming the Shocker. After knocking Shocker out, the story jumps forward again, picking up right after Harry first revealed himself to Peter and invited him out for a drink. And we finally get to see their private conversation unfold. Harry asks Peter if he also received the pre-recorded message from Tony Stark, and Peter confirms he did. Harry then explains how he inherited both Oscorp and the Staying Stark company, and what he uncovered through the hidden Stark family database. He discovered that the people who sold off Staying Stark are among the most dangerous individuals on the planet. Curious, Harry asks why Stark chose Peter. Peter answers honestly, if the Maker hadn't manipulated the timeline, he would have become one of the world's greatest heroes. That future was stolen from him, and now he wants to reclaim it. Both men agree that they're going to do something about it. The story then jumps to the present day, which is May. Harry, fully suited up as the Green Goblin, is interrogating Bullseye for every piece of information he can get. Bullseye mocks Harry, doubting he has what it takes to break him, but Harry sees it differently, and with that, issue 5 ends off there. Issue 6 kicks off in June. The Parker family stares at Peter, stunned by the bruises on his face. Peter brushes it off as classic Parker luck, but May nearly accidentally slips, almost shouting out that her dad is Spider-Man before catching herself. She quickly apologizes, and Peter tells her that it's okay. Still, the moment sparks curiosity in MJ and Richard. They want to know what really happened, so Peter begins to explain, leading us into a flashback for the night before. Spider-Man and Green Goblin are on a rooftop, staking out Kingpin's building from across the street. Peter is clearly uneasy, and Harry picks up on it. Peter admits he's never broken a law before, and tonight they're about to trespass in Fisk's building. Harry brushes it off, calling it a necessary evil, then calls Peter by name. Peter suggests they use code names while suited up. Harry argues they don't have any, until Peter reminds him that everyone already calls him Green Goblin, so why not just use that name? Harry makes it clear that no one else can give him a code name, but ends up liking it anyway and calls himself Green Goblin. Go figure. It's finally time, and Spider-Man and Green Goblin crash through the window of Fisk's tower, ready to confront the Kingpin, and uncover who's really pulling the strings. But to their surprise, Fisk is already waiting for them, completely unfazed. He reveals that he's been watching them for quite some time, tracking their every move through surveillance cameras scattered across Manhattan. This whole thing, it was a trap. Without hesitation, Fisk throws a coffee table straight at Goblin, catching him off guard. Spider-Man jumps in, webbing up Kingpin's face mid-charge, yelling, "What is wrong with you? You could have offed him." Fisk shouts back, "That's the idea." It's a harsh reality check for Peter. He's never truly dealt with someone like Fisk before, someone who cares very little about someone else's life. Goblin manages to regain control, pulling Kingpin's attention and throws a pumpkin bomb at him. But when the smoke clears, Fisk is still standing. The explosion had no effect. His body is covered in strange tattoos, likely enchanted or enhanced in some way, signaling that Wilson Fisk is far more powerful than he appears. Fisk charges forward, slamming his fist into Goblin's helmet, so hard that it cracks it open on impact. Spider-Man leaps back into the fight, trying to protect Harry, but Fisk pummels Peter with brutal force, each hit more devastating than the last. Little help here, Peter shouts between punches. Goblin doesn't hesitate. He calls in his glider. He grabs the barely conscious Spider-Man and retreats. Fisk watches them go and smiles. He doesn't have to chase them as he knows they're not coming back anytime soon for round 2. The flashback ends and we're back in the present time. Peter tells his family that he has to stop Fisk. MJ just worries about their safety if Peter continues to pursue this to Spider-Man. Peter reassures them that they're safe, and he apologizes to MJ and Richard for not telling them about this sooner. After the kids go in their rooms, Peter asks MJ if she was mad, but she wasn't, to his surprise. She's 30% scared, 40% impressed, and 30% for some other things. In other words, after hearing that her husband is a superhero, she's ready to bust it wide open and catch a few webs. Now let me stop. But she was really curious to see Peter's suit, and he showed it to her, but he admits that he doesn't have a code name for himself yet. MJ points out, "Ain't it obvious? You're Spider-Man," ending off issue 6 with the final panel showing MJ on Peter's back while he swings in Manhattan, bringing the first story arc of Ultimate Spider-Man to a close. Besides all that, if you are entertained, thought it was educational like what I said or all the above, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment, turn on post notifications, especially if you're a new viewer. If you want to support the channel even more, my links will be down in the description box below, and I'll talk to you guys and girls later. Peace.